What is up, everybody? I've got some games in tank I haven't really showed in a while, but I think you'll enjoy these games, especially the second one. It's pretty good. And that is the TVP, the Tier 10 Czech medium, with its 4-shot autoloader of, I think it's 320 alpha, 4 shots. Now, this tank I used to play a lot, but then it got nerfed, and then it got nerfed a second time. And the nerf, it was, well, both times, I believe. The first one, it reduced the reload, and then the second one, it reduced the reload again, or sorry, increased the reload, I should say. And then also slowed the intra-clip reload time, which is the time between each shell, how long that takes to dish that out, basically. And in my opinion, this tank could really use, as we look at my wonderful messages, GG on my part, I think it could use with a buff. I think the reload should be returned to where it was at least after the first nerf. Just my opinion. This may be unpopular with some people, but this tank, even with the original state it was, I could see the argument a little bit for being a little bit overperforming. Granted, it really was, because not many people played it. It's probably more of a case of the top players making the tank look good, which has happened before. Hence why something like the Foch 155 back was nerfed back in the day, like that of all the tanks. But I'd like to see it at least return to where it was after the first nerf, which was, I think, about a 24-second reload, or maybe, I'm not sure off the top of my head. But right now, I think it's around, after it's all kitted out, I think the reload is about 28 seconds or so. Which, to me, is kind of crazy, since you only do about, I think it's like 1,300 average, something around that, per clip. And just to put that in perspective, that reload on that, compared to something like the 57 Heavy, which hasn't been touched for some reason ever, basically, I don't think. I think that tank's around, like, mine's around 21 seconds or so on the reload on that, and that's 1,600 damage. Granted, you don't get the mobility of this, but I don't think it should be that much of a difference or disparity between those tanks, or at least in my opinion. I at least like to see this back to where it was. Granted, it's still better than some of the Italian tanks that were just at it. Granted, you don't get to choose the shots between, or I'm sorry, you don't get to shoot half your clip or anything like that. But yeah. But if you can, just with this tank, if you can get into a game where it's kind of prolonged, even with the current state that it's in, you can still rack up some damage. You just have to have the time. And I've played a few tanks like that lately, this being one of them, and then the other one being the Emil 2, which has just been kind of destroyed. And here, we're just going to blow his head off. Shocker. We blew the head off with the DP. It's not that unbelievable. That tank's pretty, yeah. It's made of Amorex on the side, if you don't know that already. But where it still excels, I mean, granted, the reload between the shells isn't as good, but if you can track somebody like that, and then you can dump all your shells into them. And it's really good at that. And especially good at taking out enemies that are already kind of weak. And granted, like I said, the mobility is pretty damn good on this tank. So you can do stuff like this, where you can come up behind your enemies and dump the rounds in. Because granted, the penetration on these rounds isn't that great on the base one. I think they're around 248. I could be wrong there. I should have aimed that one a little better. See the wonderful situation there of the Patton. Otherwise, we would have been able to kill that E3. Here, I actually thought about ramming him, but I'm just like, yeah, it's probably not the best idea. So I can skirt right behind him and take cover behind the E5. He's a one-shot, but he's still an E5, and he actually has armor. This thing has basically no real effective armor. You'll get some weird bounces and stuff like that, but it's nothing that you're ever going to rely on, to be honest. Really, what this thing excels at, even still, because I don't think they ever nerfed the mobility on this thing. It's just the ability to relocate and come at your enemies from different flanks, and just you're able to dump shots into them really quickly, without that much fear of getting shot back. And that's kind of the main thing I like about this thing. Now here, I could have... See, this is where the difference is. Back in the day, before this thing was nerfed, I probably would have reloaded. I probably would have. I probably would have reloaded a full clip here in this situation. But now that the reload being like close to 30 seconds, I was not too keen on it. So, and I don't know how some of those shots hit. Those are very rough. But again, as soon as we empty those rounds, we're gonna try to get away and come at him from a different angle and start moving towards him again once I'm reloaded. If you're in a situation like this, you don't always have to wait for your reload to start getting in position. Honestly, you probably shouldn't ever, most times. But so instead of wasting time moving, once you're reloaded, you can reload basically on the way there. And it's something I try to do. And somehow, I was really happy with that. We were able to actually clip out that entire guy's health. So we were able to take our damage total from an okay 4,000 damage game to... I'm pretty happy with this so far, 6,000 damage. Especially considering where this tank kind of lies nowadays. But, I really wish the next set of bounce changes that you see some love given to this tank and the tier 9, I think. You don't see many of these tanks, and usually when they are played, it's by the better players. At least that's from my experience. That's who still plays this tank. And unfortunately, what that does is the way they balance tanks sometimes, it leads to the tank getting nerfed again. I think even Jack made fun of me of that, because I make tanks like this, or other players make these tanks that aren't that great, or aren't as good as they used to be, make them look really good, and when in reality they need some help, basically. So I think what that is, but we're just gonna come in here and we're just gonna clip out a little arty friend and finish out our damage total at just shy of 7k. Good game. Not the hardest game in the world. It's kind of a farm towards the end, but just some good repositioning and map awareness, and just some farming, like that Type 4. I mean, yeah, let's be honest here. This tank used to be extremely hard to 3-mark. I don't know how it is now, but I haven't found an issue with keeping it at the 3-mark level, the 95%. So this is probably a tank that fits me fairly well because it's fairly mobile. You could almost argue it's like a big light tank, and the play style of it, and that you're not gonna really ridgeline poke or anything like that. You're just kind of exploiting the map, exploiting the enemies, the red team's mistakes, basically, and let them mess up, and then you're gonna punish them with 4 shots of damage, hopefully. Now, this next game's a pretty long one, I think. Yeah. So, just bear with it. But it gets a little crazy at the end. Just gonna forewarn you on that one. This is on stream, I think today, which is 30th of March, whenever I put this up. And I was giving people, some people watching, making them a little nervous. And you'll know the situation when it comes up. I'll definitely point it out. It'll be pretty obvious when it comes up. But we'll get to that. Until then, we're just gonna work our way out on this is Alamein, I guess. I don't know if I've shown this map very much. I don't really try to show maps that much, especially when I'm not in like light tanks or something like that. Just because doing map guides isn't exactly something I totally want to do. Outside of the scouting roles on different maps and kind of different light tank positions, but doing full comprehensive map guides has never been something I've ever considered. Granted, just mostly because I don't always have the software editing, and I'll be honest, I'm not the most, I don't want to say like analytical kind of person. I know my commentary style maybe sounds like that, but I don't really pay much attention to some like tank. I don't want to say there's some tank stats I pay attention to, but I don't dive deep into the details of everything. I'm not comparing things on like watt info or anything like that usually. I just look at the basic pen values and stuff like that, so I know what I'm going to penetrate, where I'm going to be able to shoot at. So basically, just basic info like that is good to know. Obviously. You see here this Lorraine 40T. It's kind of hesitant, and I'm thinking at this point, I kind of want to get him off the board. I kind of want to move up. I got a lot of support behind me. Unfortunately, the Panzer wagon pokes up as I'm moving forward. I was really hoping to come in here unspotted. When you're unspotted, that's some of the best. That's really when you can make your plays. Just based off positioning. That's something I like to do. I don't mind brawling, but if I can get the drop on people, it's preferable, because then I usually don't take damage. And then we go take guys out like that Lorraine, who is a little salty, and you'll see him send a few messages to the game. I don't have him posted, but in the video, sorry. I know some people would like that, but I just don't have, I guess, the time to totally do that. And there we go. We get the nice little assault from our really good friend of the Lorraine 40T, who did not like getting clipped out by another autoloader. That's just unfortunate for him. So at this point, it's kind of a roadblock. You see the lack of gun depression here. Some tanks you'd be able to kill that 5120. And at this point, I think, at least I was platoon with Tubby this game. He's getting YOLO'd by their 2 platoon of Russian meds. I kind of wanted to help, but there's no shots on those guys. And they're just kind of going to be pushing up. And we're able to put one shot into that light tank and try to blind fire him again just in case. This thing holds a lot of ammo, so I wasn't too worried about running out. I don't think I've ever ran out of ammo in this tank. I could be wrong. But, it's whatever. Granted, I'm not advising you to go nilly-willy and just start blasting shots off all over the map, hoping they hit. It's not something you should do. But occasionally, it's alright to let a couple shots maybe fly that are kind of iffy. Sometimes you're rewarded, sometimes, most of the time you're not, that I find. Now again, just to critique myself here, I should have just stayed low, and I wouldn't have got spotted. And I probably could have got the drop on these guys a little better. I think I still fairly do. But like I said, with mediums like this, or even light tanks, obviously, some of the best things happen when you're unspotted. And you pop up in positions where the enemies just aren't protecting or expecting you. And here we aim perfectly on the 430U, but first one bounces. Fantastic. But we get a little bit of luck back as the Panzer wagon bounces off of us. Again, this thing doesn't have a ton of armor. It has a little bit on the turret, and that's probably where he hit us. Just because of the sloping and then the angling of it. But whatever. And at this point, I think we're going to take a shot here. It's kind of unfortunate. But I thought it was kind of necessary for me to move up at this point. I'm not going to be able to do anything in the back. And I'm seeing there a lot of their heavies are just kind of sitting in the field, chilling. So, yeah. Now here, I could have taken out that 140, and I probably would have been the smart play. But that 430U, I'm just going to be honest, that tank is a pain to take and deal with, especially in something like this frontally. So if I'm given the opportunity to take a tank out that's difficult for my tank to usually take out from the front, I'm going to take it, and I'm going to take him out of the game, even if it means switching targets. So just some quick target acquisition and prioritization, I guess. I'd rather deal with that tank than something else. Like 140 you can usually deal with, but we're going to see that's not always going to be the case either. And here I'm trying to pop the turret on the chieftain. I see I ammo racked him, but unfortunately we're not going to be able to. I don't know what he's doing. He's just chilling in the middle of the field. I don't know how nobody else has shot him yet. I guess nobody else has target or shots on him. And here you can see we're waiting on the reload. I'm not trying to expose myself until I'm at least close to reloaded. Which now we are. I don't really know what spots us at this point. I think it may have been the E100 actually, but I really don't know what spotted us there. Maybe the chieftain naturally got within view range, but Now here's a pretty important play on my part in this game. I see like 3 other tanks are pushing that one side, and we don't really have much over there, so instead of trying to go over there and push them in this tank, which doesn't fight against multiple tanks very well, I'm going to go push the isolated Jagdpanzer I saw over here. But I see he's still looking this way, so really now it's kind of a waiting game. And this is kind of that crazy moment I was talking about. You see, I'm just waiting. I see he's kind of moving up at this point. And I'm kind of worried about the... Well, I was worried about the Panzerwagen, but he gets shut down by Artie, so that's good for us. Like I said, in these point in games, I'm worried about view range. So, again, I'm also worried about the 140. Mobility and view range in these stages of the game is usually fairly important on wide maps like this. And so now that I know he's probably over there, I'm going to go in on this Jagdpanzer, but then I kind of misjudge it and see that he was probably going to be able to shoot us. So I go for the drive wheel, and we get a great shot into his drive wheel, and it already misses us, and we're reloading now. So most normal people would probably just run away, and I'm not saying that's probably not the worst play. It's probably the smarter play than what I'm doing here. But we're just going to ignore the turretless TD and just kind of chill behind him. Just, we're just going to park ourselves right here. And we're going to reload, casually. Unfortunately, he tracks us, which is an issue. And at this point, we're just going to kill the Artie. And we let him turn a little bit, just get his hopes up. And then we're just going to turn around, put one shot, and then hopefully track him. And then we're going to go back around and just reload again. Just proving that, once again, turrets are a great thing to have on a tank. So yeah, the more you know. So we're just going to do a little dance in front of this guy. He's never going to get us. I'm surprised he didn't just give up at this point. But we're going to take him out of his misery. And now we're going to go move our concentration over to the cap. Again, I wasn't worried about the cap at this point. On LL main, I think it is, it's a 3-minute cap timer. So even if they both got in the cap circle, I still got a minute and like 50 seconds to get over there. I'm still worried about the 140. But I know he's only on at least 600 health, but he could be on less because he fought some other tanks. So really my goal is to find him and get him off the board first. I'm not worried about the heavy tank that much. I'm fairly confident I can outmaneuver him and outplay him. But just, I'm trying to figure out where I would be in a medium tank. And I really doubt that's in the cap. I'm going to say that's definitely the heavy at this point. That's just my thought process. So I'm thinking the 140 is probably going to be doing Overwatch. in these dunes, and sure enough, we're able to light him up. I guess we just got his cupola or something like that. Unfortunately, he spots us as well. But being on 1100 hit points, I see he's a one-shot for us. So this should be a fairly easy kill if you think. But we're almost gonna kind of mess it up here. Plus get a little bad RNG, I think. I don't know, you can be the judge of that. Now it's kind of an awkward fight, because he's kind of angled back and we don't really have a great shot. And now that I just rewatched that, I know what happened. I was aiming at his hull, and that's what I was trying to shoot at. Unfortunately, I didn't aim the shot all the way in, so it went right into the turret face. Otherwise, that probably would have killed him. But luckily, we were able to bait him out in front of our TD, which is good. And he's able to get taken down. So just some little bait maneuver there at the end. And then we're going to just fire our entire heat clip into the 103 and take him down for our 5th kill. And 7,500 damage in a really, really fun game. A funny game also at that, especially with the Jagdpanzer. But I hope you guys enjoyed that. I know I did. I know people watching the chat did. That was a funny game to play. So I still like this tank. I just wish they would restore it to a little bit of its former glory. Just reducing the reload would be nice. Or even if not that, giving it back its intra-clip reload time. It still gets shells out fairly quick. It's not like the Swedish heavies or anything like that. But I'd still just like to see this tank get a little bit of love. Be nice. But overall, fun tank for I like it. And until next time, I'll see you then.